Hi, classmates. Haley and I are taking a very brief summer vacation, so in the meantime, we are releasing a couple episodes from the Patreon paywall. We have a show and tell for you and a Smart Alex, so double feature. We will be back next week with a regular episode, and we're looking forward to seeing you then. Welcome to our new show.
It's called Show and Tell.
We got tired of reading lists,
so now we just have a list of facts given to you in an episode. That's not necessarily a list.
Yeah, it's basically an extra one of our normal episodes. We're going to be doing these every month. We're like a normal episode, researching something that's interesting to us and presenting it. Maybe it's something that's not quite long enough to be a regular lesson, or something that's like maybe a little too niche or random to be a regular lesson, or just something we like.
We're so random.
So random.
We're so quirky.
So quirky.
Mine specifically will be true crime.
Every time?
Every time, yes.
Okay.
Because I love the name Night Crimey so much that will be my portion.
That'll be your portion.
Yeah.
Okay. So far, I don't have a theme. I felt like I needed a theme, and then Alec and Haley told me I didn't. So it'll just be whatever I feel. Yeah, free spirit round.
Yeah.
So are we branding this as Night Crimey and Show and Tell?
No,
I think just show and tell. And then when it's my turn,
featuring
Night
Crimey.
It's in two parts, Night Crimey and whatever the fuck I threw together that month.
Our 2-part list. We're basically still list bitches.
Yes, but the list has 2 bullet points.
Yeah, with a bunch of sub-bullet points.
Yeah, I guess there'll never be Smart Horses list part 2.
Uh-oh. I forgot about that. Well, I think you kind of have to do it now that you brought it up.
I don't want
it could
to.
Be a lesson. Well, there you go. That's why we're doing this show, is because we're just trying to follow what is exciting to us, and of course what we think you all will like, and hopefully those interests intersect. So
yeah, and we felt like this will be more fun than reading lists.
And we just gotta chase that dopamine.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta be a hoe for dopamine.
Sometimes you really do. My story does not have much it doesn't have much dopamine. I'm a little on the true crime side.
Oh, mine definitely doesn't have dopamine, but
okay, good.
But I'm interested in it.
Well, should we begin? Who's going first?
We shall. I don't know. How do we do this?
I don't know. Do you?
I can go first. I can go first.
Okay, I feel like you have yours a little bit more together than mine is. So let's start off.
We'll find
on the right
out
foot
together. I'm already like, shit, do I know how to pronounce the name?
Oh no. Do you need a minute to look it up?
No, I think I've got it. And honestly, you probably have heard of this case, but it was one of those that is just so fucked that I didn't want it to be such like a downer episode on the main feed. So this is our kind of like niche dark human behavior content.
Yeah, that's a little bit like what mine is too. And I feel like there are some topics we can't release on the main feed because I just again, my students find this podcast and I don't want them to have video of me saying certain things. So this might be a good outlet for some of those stories.
Yeah, this is after hours.
Yes.
Night classy. Well, I'll start. And I'll start with just mentioning the tale of Hansel and Gretel. I think we've all heard of it. The brother and sister are in the woods, and the witch brings them, lures them into her house and keeps them in the cell and fattens them up so that she can eat them.
I feel like your name could be Gretel.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
Do I look like a Gretel?
You have Gretel vibes.
I
like
see
it.
that.
It's a cute name.
Yeah, especially with like how my hair is these days with the kind of like swoop bangs.
Yeah, Gretels are known for having swoop bangs.
I think they are. I've never met a Gretel.
I picture them with like braids
imagine
wrapped around their head.
I could rock a good braid.
Like a Dutch braid kind of thing.
I taught myself how to French braid, but I did it backwards as a kid. So instead of the braid like going in, it went out. I don't know. It was very odd because I did it backwards because it was like on my own head. I don't know.
You mean
it didn't
like
look right.
Like the
braid,
it's 3-dimensional.
yeah, like it looks like it sat on top of my hair.
I never knew how to do those.
It's just like a backwards French braid.
That's what people have said, but I don't get it. I don't understand.
I didn't know what I was doing wrong either. But I played lacrosse for years, so braids were the go-to because I didn't want my hair slapping on my back, getting all sweaty.
And then you could
stuff.
like put it in your helmet.
You didn't have helmets. You just had metal goggles that went around your eyes. Yeah, you raw dogged it. I remember my first game, I got hit in the head with the ball, and I was like, yeah, that checks out.
Did you ever get whacked in the head with a stick?
Not really. You would get a red card for something like that.
Even
it is really
it's
close.
An accident?
Yeah, even if it's an accident. Yeah. Okay. The guys have much different rules, though, because, they're all decked out. They look like robots, basically.
The guys wear helmets, right?
The guys wear helmets,
and they're just like, fuck the women. Let's just let them get brain damage.
Well, the rules are way different, too. Yeah.
Okay.
Because we're delicate flowers.
Well, that's so true.
Well, anyway, I'll take on Gretel as my third alternate personality.
There you go.
I like it. Well, the person we're talking about today, Armin Meiwes, was enthralled with this story as a child. He was born December 1st, 1961. Despite his father having two other sons from a previous marriage, he was raised as an only child in Essen, Germany. His mother was a German mother. She was very stern. And his father was as well. His father, though, was generally just disinterested in him. And Armin's mother ended up raising him alone. They raised him in a 44-room farmhouse. They had a lot of land. And his father had left the family when he was somewhere between 5 to 8 years old. This abandonment left Armin feeling very lonesome and like his family had fallen apart, which it had. He wasn't really close with his older siblings, and his mother was really, really quick to criticize him, especially in public. He didn't have a lot of freedom growing up. She insisted on going with him wherever he went and was just kind of over his shoulder, it seemed, all the time. So he delved into the world of German fairy tales, a healthy mind space to exist in as a child.
Yeah, good advice in those.
Definitely. And he took them to heart. His obsession grew into true crime and other taboo topics. I'm guessing as a way to deal with this like newfound position he had as now like the man of the house. Armin had full jurisdiction over their expansive property and spent most of his time reading serial killer biographies. He recalled daydreaming about cannibalism for the first time as a schoolboy, wondering what it would be like to eat his classmates. Armin felt that if he could eat someone, they could become a part of him and stay with him forever.
Oh no.
That's where you say, oh no.
That's not a good reason.
Not good enough.
The reason is I wonder what they taste like.
I wonder what they taste like. And also, I am going on a pilgrimage out west to California, and I'm in the Donner Party.
Yeah, necessity only.
You've got to be really hungry.
Yeah, that the reason of I want a friend to be with me forever in my stomach.
Not good enough.
That's
it's honestly creepy.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
He shared his desires at first only with his imaginary friend, Frankie. Unsurprisingly, his cannibalistic aspirations did not fade as he got older, and he really was able to lean into them and explore them after his mother died in 1999.
Did he eat her?
He did not eat her.
Well, missed opportunity.
Yeah. Well, he did do something else that is, I think, maladaptive. He erected a shrine to his mother in their house, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. But then he also created or bought a mannequin to serve as her, and he would visit it and talk to it every day. And he even set out a pillow and would lay his mother mannequin down at nighttime. So
at least it's a mannequin.
Yeah, he's not just putting her in the freezer
and
going to say hey.
Or a quote unquote mannequin, wink wink.
Yeah, it's his saltified mother that's now turned mannequin.
I don't think they should sell mannequins to the general public. It seems like nothing good comes from that ever.
The only thing I can think of is someone trying to like pick out an outfit and see what would look good on their body, but that's just so much work.
Then you buy a dress form. You don't need the full thing.
And often mannequins' proportions are just so off. They're just wrong.
True. Unless maybe, you know what? I kind of do like the idea of dressing up a mannequin in the outfit you're going to wear the next day, but I need it to have my body.
Yeah.
So
what you can do is like wrap plastic wrap around your own body.
Make a plaster mold, dress form kind of thing.
Or even just like put tape around that and then you cut it just on the back and then tape it and like stuff it with pillow stuffing. Much cheaper.
Okay, arts and craft projects, make mannequins of ourselves.
Ooh, that would be kind of fun.
It kind of would be. I'm kind of down.
We should have a day where we all make our mannequins together.
Wait, yeah, we should.
Night crafty.
And I'm about to have a dressing room for myself in my house.
I cannot wait for you to have a dressing room.
I have been talking about this nonstop. Everyone's so tired of hearing it, but I can't wait.
It's a big deal.
This is childhood dream come true. I'm like Lizzie McGuire.
Are you going to get like racks for your clothes or
I bought like one of those big like closet systems, you know, like with the racks and the shelves that goes along one wall. So I'm going to have my closet along one wall. I'm going to have my vanity on the other wall and then like a dresser on the third wall. And then
the litter box is in the other corner.
No, the litter box will not be in there. And that room also has like a regular closet that I'm going to put like my coats and a laundry basket in.
I'm like sweating. I'm so excited.
It's going to be so good. You don't even understand.
It's going to be beautiful. I'm so fucking jealous.
I'm like a character in a Disney Channel TV show.
You are. You're like 13 going on 30. You're the dream version your 13-year-old was dreaming they'd become.
Exactly. So with that being said, I do think I need a mannequin.
I think you do. Just don't get any crazy ideas. Don't get it its own pillow. That's where I draw the line.
I won't eat it.
Don't eat it. So he has his mommykin.
Okay.
Yeah, a hit movie, Mommykin.
Armin found community, though, on a website called The Cannibal Cafe. And when I looked this up, because I wanted to find out more about it, there's actually a restaurant in Canada called this.
No.
But it's not that. The Cannibal Cafe was a website which created a space for people with a cannibalism fetish. There, Armin posted as Antrophagus or also as Frankie. If you recall, that's the name of his imaginary friend. He was successful in meeting up with other men in hotel rooms and asking them to role play acts of cannibalism. But beyond that, no one agreed to really even like role play it really.
Yeah, like actually let him eat
like
them.
Nibble. Yeah.
Have you seen that movie? I think it may have been like a Hulu original. Is it called Raw, where that guy like kidnaps women and then like keeps them in his house and like cuts off body parts while keeping them alive to sell the body parts to cannibals on the internet?
Oh, that sounds horrifying.
And it was pretty good.
Yeah, it sounds good. Don't get me wrong. As you know, I'm into that horror, make me feel weird type stuff.
Yeah, I wish I could. I'm sure if you Google like cannibalism movie,
there's only so many.
There's probably a lot, but this one was recent, like in the last few years.
Okay, I'm gonna look it up.
Okay.
Armin himself rejected one man who wanted him to beat him to death. Armin later cited that was just too weird for him.
Oh, wait. So he was like, you can eat me if you beat me to death. And Armin didn't want to beat him.
Yeah, he didn't want to beat him to death.
That's too much.
Just wanted to eat him.
I agree. That's a lot of physical exertion.
Yeah, just take some pills or something and
But if you take
away.
pills, that poisons your meat.
That's true. That's true. I don't know. It's all kind of wrong.
Just a little bit.
Armin's luck finally turned around in March 2001 when he started corresponding with user Cater99. Behind the screen name Cater99 was Siemens engineer Bernd Jürgen Brandes. Bernd had a very specific desire to have his penis bitten off and then to be killed. He was ready to die, and Armin at this point was ready to kill. Armin wrote to Cater 99 in part, quote, "After you're dead, I'll take you out and expertly carve you up. Except for a pair of knees and some fleshy trash, skin, cartilage, tendons. There won't be much of you left. I'll dry out the knees and grind them up soon after. You won't be the last, hopefully. I've already considered catching a young person from the street."
No.
He's already planning his next moves.
Yeah.
He's really, really thought about this. He's fantasized, and this is years in the making.
Stick to the consensual cannibalism.
Or
Like, why?
get help.
Or get help. When was this?
2001.
Yeah, there's help to be had
Definitely.
at the time.
I guess all of that sounded good to Bernd because the men continued messaging back and forth online for a couple of days. The messages were passionate, and Bernd took the next steps. He took the day off work, sold all of his personal belongings, and wiped his hard drive. Bernd bought a one-way ticket to Kassel, where Armin was waiting for him. The pair made a pit stop to pick up painkillers before they arrived at Armin's house, and they had sex. At this point, Bernd is starting to have second thoughts about their plan, but then he decided to down 20 sleeping pills, cough syrup, and a bottle of schnapps. We know this because Armin videotaped the entire thing. After Bernd practically took his own life already with all those substances, he looked to Armin and said, "Now do it." Armin attempted to make Bernd's dreams of having his penis bitten off come true, but it proved too difficult to actually chew through.
Oh.
So he resorted to a kitchen knife. He tried feeding a bite of it to Bernd, but it was, again, too tough for him to chew.
Oh.
This was no deterrent, though, for Armin. He seasoned the penis with salt, pepper, wine, and garlic, and then fried it with Bernd's own fat. And at this point, Bernd is coming in and out of consciousness as he's just
God.
having massive blood loss.
And does he want to eat it?
Yeah,
Okay.
he managed to eat one bite of it.
Okay.
But Armin had burned the meat by accident.
Oh, amateur.
But it didn't go
How
to waste.
mad would you be? This is his one
pissed.
chance to eat his own penis, and you fucking
You
burn
burned it.
This is not a sweet potato. You can't just go get a new one.
He should have just swapped it out with a bratwurst and called it a
he
day.
should have practiced first.
This man is about to die from blood loss alone. Just let him think that it's his own peen, right? Just give him
or
a hot
just
dog
don't
and call
burn
it a day.
Maybe just like cook a piece of it at a time.
Yeah, pay
Then you can
very
start
close
over.
attention to this delicacy you're
Yeah.
serving here. You
This
took
is-
all this time to season it.
This is not the time to fuck up.
No, but he fucked it up. And he decided to ground it up and fed it to his dog.
No.
Yeah. Armin drew a bath for Bernd and checked on him every 15 minutes, just kind of waiting for him to die. Meanwhile, Armin was reading a Star Trek book. Armin later said, quote, "My friend enjoyed dying, death. I only waited horrified for the end after doing the deed. It took so terribly long." At the time, cannibalism was not a crime in Germany, but murder was. Apparently, Armin prayed for Bernd to regain consciousness, but decided he was too far gone and proceeded to stab him in the throat, proving to be a fatal wound. Bernd's body was then, it was then hung from a meat hook and drained before Armin apparently expertly dismembered it on his butcher's block and then made like meal-sized portions that he packed away into his freezer.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I told you this is where
He
I'm
makes
really...
like little HelloFresh bags.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he sets out the wine seasoning and the salt in the bag. He's like, and this will be with Italian seasoning. This I'll make couscous with.
This one's for the Southwest spice.
Separate the penis whites from the penis greens.
Be sure to wash your produce. Armin set his table with, quote, nice candles, took out his best dinner service and fried a piece of rump steak, a piece from his back, and made what he called princess potatoes and sprouts, and then he ate it. Any unused and inedible body parts like Burns' skull were buried throughout Armin's garden. Burns' flesh fed Armin for the next 20 months.
Jeez.
Approximately 44 pounds of flesh.
Oh my God.
And since Armin had recorded the entire act, I didn't see this in any of my sources. This is a really surface, I'd say, level covering. There's a lot more to this case. But I would assume, based off of what I know about killers, that he probably revisited that footage often.
I'm sure he watched it all the time.
Yeah.
Do you think he was using it like pornography?
Yeah, probably. Probably. I mean, throughout this whole thing, that's one of his fetishes, and I feel comfortable yucking this yum. Most fetishes, look like...
Don't get canceled.
Oh no, I'm scared. Oh God. Okay, let me regather here. Unfortunately, Burns' murder didn't satisfy Armin's urges for long. An Austrian student reported Armin to the police, which led to a search of Armin's property. From what I understand, I think the student saw one of Armin's posts online, but Armin also said that he was looking to just kidnap young people from the street. So I don't know if it was like there's this weird guy trying to get people, or if the college student saw one of Armin's posts and that he was on the cannibal forum.
Yeah, I'm surprised more people aren't reporting him.
Yeah.
It sounds like he's just telling anybody who will listen what he wants to do.
He was on the website. I don't think he was just out there talking about it.
But yeah, even on the website, like this is a
Yeah.
website for fetishes, not for murdering.
Yeah, that's true. He was very open on the website. A search ensues. They find a false bottom in his freezer, which reveals his Hello Fresh pounds of flesh. Hello Flesh.
Hello,
Oh, how did we miss that the first time?
Armin claimed it was a boar, but then officers found the footage of Burns' death. So Armin admitted almost immediately after his arrest. An insanity defense did not stand, and Armin was determined fit to stand trial in December 2003. He was later diagnosed with a schizophrenic personality disorder. He was convicted of manslaughter in January 2004 and sentenced to 8 years, 6 months in prison, where he became a vegetarian. Thankfully, they retried Armin in 2005 for murder, and he was then sentenced to life in prison. But oddly enough to me, he's been permitted to wander the streets in disguise as part of his rehabilitation.
What?
Why?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like they just want,
like,
they
be
want to give him his
normal.
enrichment like a zoo animal. Like go out and experience the world for an hour a day, pretend to be normal.
He has, and I'm sure since he's been diagnosed, he's receiving therapy. He expresses regret for his actions and urges people to go for treatment so it doesn't escalate like it did with him.
Okay.
I'm imagining the judge, them being like, you are sentenced to life in prison. And he's like, but can I put on a little disguise and go walk around outside? And they're like, okay.
I wonder how often that ruling is for anyone in prison in Germany.
I don't know what German prisons are like, but
Me either. I'll have to look into it.
yeah.
But that is the case of Armin Meiwes.
Wow.
Or Meiwes, or
well,
who knows? It's a mystery.
That was fascinating. I have another fucked up learning journey to take you on.
Love it.
So being an executioner has never been an attractive job, especially not in the 1600s when executions were pretty frequent. They were also up close and personal and often bloody. Because it's a job nobody wanted, executioners were typically low status individuals with few other options. Sometimes you were even born into it. A lot of times if your dad was an executioner, you would become one too.
Maybe he's born with it.
Maybe his daddy was an executioner. Or sometimes if you got in trouble with the law and had few other prospects, you'd become an executioner, or you'd be given a reduced prison sentence. Or like if you were going to be sent to prison, they might be like, hey, like the town needs a new executioner, so instead of going to prison, you could do this.
That's 1600s enrichment right there.
Definitely. Yeah. What a plea deal. I think I'd rather go to prison, but prison in the 1600s was probably pretty terrible.
But still, it's like, if you already are unwell mentally, and I'm not saying that everyone who goes to prison is, but if you are, surely being an executioner is not going to help.
No.
Not that they had great mental health care in the 1600s.
I would argue it will definitely make it worse. Like 100% chance. So a lot of executioners were ex-prisoners, which was the case for Jack Ketch, the 17th century's most famous executioner. Ketch spent his early years in and out of jail. He'd served time at Marshalsea Prison in Southwark, England, and became an executioner in 1663. Even though being an executioner was a really shitty job that no one wanted, there were some perks they gave them to kind of sweeten the deal, because otherwise nobody would do it, I guess, unless you were...
You get to bring the limbs home and boil it for your bone collection.
Okay, no, but I bet if they asked, they'd be allowed to.
They'd be like, yeah, take this shit off our hands.
Not? They're actually, bone boiling does come into this lesson, so you're not completely wrong. So executioners were allowed to pay reduced taxes, sometimes no taxes. Sometimes they were also given a place to live, subsidized by the government. They were allowed to keep the executed person's clothes, and they got to take whatever was on them, and they also got to take the rope that was used to hang them.
Okay. I'd be going around like accusing the most posh bitch in town of some wild crimes.
You know what? Not a bad strategy, and we'll get to why. But the rope doesn't sound like that good of a thing, but hangman's nooses were actually really valuable at the time because they were perceived to hold powerful magic.
Why?
I don't know. I think it was just like the superstition. Also, like it was a rope used to kill someone, so there's probably
your spirit
a lot of energy inside of that. It was said these ropes could cure ailments when worn around the neck, which sounds weird to me because
cures you of life.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess depending what your ailment is. It seems like it would be like a cursed thing, like a bad thing, but apparently they were good. They also brought good luck, so a lot of gamblers wanted one as like a little lucky token.
Oh my god, this is just a really good marketing campaign. That's all it is.
Some executioner down the road, they were like, you can keep the rope, and they're like, I'm gonna capitalize off of this. But apparently this is a thing since like ancient Rome. Also, if you wore it like around your head, it could cure headaches, whatever. Because of this, the noose could be sold for up to $1 per inch, which was pretty good money. I think the executioners were paid something like 5 shillings a month. So
oh my god,
you could get by with this extra income.
And it's a new rope each person.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because I think you have to like cut it down, you know, after they're
$1 per
there.
inch.
Yeah.
Oh, baby.
That's my drag name. Another.
How many shillings, though?
Many.
10?
More.
13?
Less. Another way executioners could make extra money was through bribery. So like you said, finding the poshest bitch in town and executing them could actually work out in your favor. If someone you were executing was wealthy, high status, or even just had like any extra money to spend, a lot of times they would give the hangman some money to like kill them quicker.
Oh, I see. Yeah, like put me out of my misery.
Exactly.
And did they get just the clothes that were on the person's back.
Yeah, they didn't like
Get their closet.
get their entire closet. That would be
Get their dowry.
too good. Yeah, no, just whatever they were wearing at the time. Also, back to the bribery, there was no mechanism in place on the gallows at the time to like break your neck immediately.
Ugh.
So a lot of times your neck wouldn't break. You would just die like slowly of strangulations. But depending on how good the hangman was, they could do things like special knots or like just, I don't know exactly what they did, but there were ways of speeding up the strangulation process or helping your neck be broken. So
What a niche skill to have.
yeah.
Who knew? Boy Scouts.
Right.
Coming in handy.
I imagine it being like you can pick your executioner and like they have different stats. Like one of them's really good at like tying knots. Another one like kicks you really hard off the gallows and snaps your neck. See, this is why we can't do this episode on the regular show.
It's like going into Claire's to get your ears pierced and they show you the different options for studs.
They're like, we can have two people pierce your ears like two at a time or one at a time. You can do the gun, you can do the needle,
You can get the flower, the basic stud for $12 more. This one is stainless steel.
hypoallergenic gold, sterling silver.
If you go deluxe with the double piercings, you get a free gift bag.
Now I want to go get my ears pierced.
I was just thinking about getting a triple
You
piercing.
should. There's a new tattoo and piercing shop that just opened up like a block from my house, and they take walk-ins. So
Ooh, maybe we should
could go do that. Yeah, I don't know what I want pierced.
There's
my ears,
so many
my ears
options.
are already pretty pierced, but yeah, we can figure it out.
Nose piercing.
You know what? I would think about it. I've thought about it.
I can see that.
Yeah, I just don't want when I take it out there to be a hole all the time because I will take it out. I don't know if I don't know if I could pull off a septum. Anyway, so also there weren't just hangings. High status individuals especially were sometimes killed through beheading. It was thought to be like more of a high status honorable death. So bribery could encourage the executioner to make sure to sharpen his blade a little bit extra or put more effort into a precise blow. And this was the kind of treatment that Lord William Russell hoped for when he was scheduled to be beheaded by Ketch in 1683. Lord William Russell had opposed the ascension of King James because he was a Catholic and William Russell was a Protestant. And because of this, he was sentenced to death for treason. When Ketch performed the execution, though, it took him 4 blows of the axe to fully behead the Lord.
Ketch is like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed right now.
Yeah, I'm
It's like, I literally can't believe this is happening to me.
I think he got stage fright, not even a joke. And this enraged the crowd because it was like really fucked up. He's just like hacking at this guy and he's like not dying.
Oh
The
my
head's
God.
not coming off.
On one side, I can see them being outraged, but also it's like you're kind of there for a show.
Kind of, but I mean, think about it. Like a lot of the people watching this beheading were probably his friends and family.
Yeah.
And like, it's just fucked up. Because this went so poorly, Ketch had to issue a formal apology.
He probably was thinking about resigning in disgrace.
He should have. He should have just stopped there, but unfortunately, he didn't.
What if somebody switched out his axe? It was like an inside job and they gave him a really dull one.
Yeah, like his
Someone was out
apprentice
to
is
get
just
him,
like
yeah.
wanting his job.
It's like, this would be the perfect time to just come in and swoop it up.
That's not what Ketch thought happened. He said that he was interrupted while swinging, which threw him off his game.
Interrupted by what?
I don't know. Maybe
Intrusive
someone.
thoughts.
Yeah, just like a squirrel. He couldn't focus. A couple years later, in 1685, another important person was set to be executed by Ketch. James Scott, the Duke of Monmouth, was one of Charles II's illegitimate sons. And he, a Protestant, had tried to overthrow his Catholic uncle. And when that failed, he was sentenced to death. Having heard what happened to Lord Russell, Scott made sure to bribe Ketch for a swift death. He gave him 6 guineas and promised that if he delivered what he promised, he'd be paid more after the job was done. And on the day of the execution, Scott looked at the axe that Ketch was going to use, and he's like, dude, this blade is not sharp enough. This is not what we agreed on. And Ketch was like, no, it's fine. It's fine. This is how it normally is. You'll be okay.
Ketch is slacking.
Yeah. The first blow resulted in only a small wound on his neck. And according to the stories, when that happened, Scott like looked up at him from the executioner's block and gave him a dirty look, like, fuck you.
Yeah,
like, what the
like,
fuck, dude?
Seriously?
Yeah.
That's probably what burned from my story, was like when Armin was trying to bite off a piece of his dick for the first time.
That's what it was making me think of. It's like, I guess humans are a lot tougher to get through than we thought.
Is it in?
Ketch swung 3 more times, but even 3 more blows did not detach the heads. They just resulted in Scott's body convulsing, but he was still alive.
You know how chickens can walk around with their head cut off sometimes? Yeah. That's what starts happening. He finally cuts it off, but he's still like...
He's like running around. They're putting like corn kernels down his neck to keep him alive, like the chicken.
Somebody get the water droplet.
It took a few more swings to kill him, but even after he was dead, the head was still attached. Ketch was forced to take out a butcher knife and cut through the remainder of the neck to finish the job.
Gruesome.
And think about it. This is all in front of an audience. So the crowd is getting angrier and angrier. And then when he has to take the knife out, that's the last straw, and a riot breaks out.
Yeah, Jack needs to resign.
Well, now they want to kill him. They're trying to lynch him. And they would have if he hadn't been whisked away by armed guards.
Wow, they really saved his life there, because he was doing them dirty.
Yeah, and honestly, he kind of would have deserved it. Like, he
even said this axe is not good enough. He could have just sharpened it up a little bit.
But yeah, he could have just...
He could have been like, we'll give it a once over.
It was laziness. He wanted to press his snooze button one more time and didn't have time to sharpen his axe.
Which I understand. I can relate.
True. That is probably the most relatable part of this story. Soon after, Ketch was relieved of his executioner duties, not because of this incident, but because he didn't get along with one of the town sheriffs, and they were like, okay, goodbye.
That was the cover-up
story. That was the last straw. He died pretty soon after in 1686. No, I don't know how he died, but Ketch's memory lived on. The people of England remembered him for his brutal and botched executions. For the next 200 years, his name was used as slang for executioners and even as slang for the devil. People called someone scheduled for an execution a Jack Ketch's pippin. Nooses were called Jack Ketch's necklaces, and a nearby slum was called Jack Ketch's warren. And Jack Ketch's kitchen was the name of a room in the Newgate prison that was used for boiling the limbs of those who were drawn and quartered for high treason. I have no idea why they boiled the limbs, but I read that in a couple different places.
Wow,
so
what in the world did they do?
I don't know.
So many options, honestly. They probably were like, oh my God, I need this for my new walk-in closet.
I just have to hang an arm in my study for decoration.
I have so many bangles. I need somewhere to store them.
Wait, that would be cool.
It would be cool.
Yeah. And the name Jack Ketch is still remembered today as England's bloodiest executioner.
I feel like it's a really good name for an executioner. It's a shame that he really shit the bed.
It's like a harsh name, like Jack Ketch. You can kind of spit it out.
For every Jack I've met, there's something a little unhinged about them. They're kind of like wild cards. I think of Captain Jack Sparrow,
Okay. I don't know a lot of Jacks now that I think about it. I went to elementary school with
Jacks
one.
in Ohio.
Are they Jacksons or just Jack?
I think a lot of them are Jacksons that go by Jack.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, I'll keep my eye out for some Jacks.
Keep your eyes
I'll
peeled.
see what they're up to.
Your lesson makes the invention of the guillotine make a lot more sense.
Yeah, and I guess they didn't. I mean, I think did they not have guillotines in the 1600s?
The French invented it, like, I think in the late 1700s.
Okay. Yeah, you would think they would have figured that out before this, but yeah.
Trial
guess
and
not.
error.
Just axing it up, free balling.
I had heard on one podcast, I don't know if this is true or not, but that one guy who was getting beheaded said, like, I'm going to blink 12 times with my head if I'm still conscious, like once his head is off. So, like, look for my eyes and see if I'm blinking, because I'll blink 12 times. And allegedly, like, when his head fell on the ground, he, like, blinked intentionally 12 times.
Weird.
I feel like that's not true, but maybe it is.
It sounds fake.
It
But
does.
Yeah, it does sound fake, but stranger things have happened. And
True.
you think about the electricity that, makes us alive. It could have still been firing in his
Yeah.
brain, perhaps.
True.
But it takes kind of a long time to blink 12 times.
Yeah, and it's hard
You
to
just
count.
blink really fast.
When you blink as fast as you can, it's impossible to count because you blink so fast.
Yeah.
I'm doing it right now. I can't count.
You're a fast blinker. I'm
you.
impressed. You're welcome.
Well, I can do one thing. All right, well, that was my lesson.
That's all, folks. Thanks for joining us.
I hope y'all enjoyed Show and Tell. We will be back next month. And we also have a new show that is replacing trivia for our upper tier. Alec is going to teach us a lesson for that. So if you want to hear that, please do. And as always, thank you for your support, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
all right, this is episode 1 of, what is it? Smart Alec.
Oh, that's what you're calling it?
No, I don't know what we're going to
You
call
could
it.
call it Smart Alec. I think that's a
Yeah.
good name.
Okay, Smart Alec seems to be the one that gets the most reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to like that one.
I
the
meant
most.
to
like
look
it.
up the history of the phrase smart Alec. Do we know it?
No,
I've
but
never looked it
you
up
could do
either.
that. You
Give
could
it a
do it
Google
as your
real quick.
extra credit. Look it up and don't tell us.
Oh,
Okay.
interesting.
I feel like it would be good to tell it though, like right now at the
That's
It would
beginning
be
of the
pretty
very
good.
first.
Okay, do that.
It's like hat on hat. We're like, Patreon, we can't answer that question. We'll answer it on another Patreon show.
Do you want to explain what we're here for?
Yes, so we've been doing trivia night for about a year, and it was burning me out writing all the trivia, and I felt like just listing all of the multiple choice over audio wasn't necessarily the funnest way to play that. So if you guys really miss it, let me know. We'll bring it back when we need to. But
We did get good feedback when we asked for feedback, but I think this will be better for you and more enjoyable for you. And I mean, you're the one putting in hours.
yeah, and we got a lot of good feedback when I did the Forest Fin Treasure, which was me teaching a lesson. So we're just kind of trying to do that every month.
Yeah.
We're following what brings joy, y'all. And what I think is so funny about the name Smart Alec is yesterday, Alec, you're like, well, I don't want to be modest about it. And it's funny because it's not, the definition of Smart Alec is not what you are. It's like a conceited smart ass, but it's just, a play on your name.
Yeah.
But I have a couple of blurbs here giving us the background if you guys want to take a second.
Yeah,
for me to
let's
read
do
it.
it.
Okay, so this is from an article on mentalfloss.com, so I'm not sure how accurate it is, but it seems that research done by Professor Gerald Cohen in 1985 for studies of slang part 1 and other historians have shown that Alec was probably a real person named Alec Hoeg, which is kind of close
That's
to
very
Og.
close.
Alec was a pimp and thief
We have more in common.
in New York City in the 1840s. He would rob his wife Melinda's quote unquote customers while she distracted them. And again, this is my first time reading through. At first, the scheme worked like this. Melinda led a victim into a dark alley where she picked his pockets. Then she embraced the victim and held her hand out behind him where Alec was hiding to grab the stolen goods. Inevitably, some of these men would go to the police to report the thefts. To protect himself and his wife from arrest, Alec enlisted a couple of police officers by promising to split the stolen goods with them. But Alec's downfall came when he ran into some financial difficulties and couldn't give the officers their fair share. Initially, he got away with this by operating a panel game con. Melinda would bring the men back to her apartment, and then, according to George Wilkes, editor of The Subterranean, who met Alec in prison while Wilkes was falsely imprisoned, Melinda would make her victim lay his clothes as he took them off upon a chair at the head of the bed near the secret panel, and then take him to her arms and closely draw the curtains of the bed. As soon as everything was right and the dupe not likely to heed outside noises, Melinda would give a cough, and the faithful Alec would shyly enter.
Shyly?
This is pretty bold. Rifle the pockets of everything farthing or valuable thing, and finally disappear as mysteriously as he entered. Sometime after that, Alec would bang on the door, and Melinda would make out that he was her husband who had recently returned from some trip. The victims would hastily grab their clothes and escape through the window. The police soon discovered Alec was cheating them out of their share by this new tactic and arrested Alec and Melinda. Alec promptly escaped from prison with the help of his brother, but was eventually recaptured. Alec was then given the nickname Smart Alec by the police for being too smart for his own good. The thought is that police use this term when dealing with other criminals who seemed a little too smart for their own good, often thinking of ways around giving police their payoffs. Quote, "Don't be a smart Alec."
Wow.
Wow, that was
so
a
he
lot.
and I have a lot in common.
Yeah. Don't tell them about our scheme.
Yeah, you're
I
always
know.
scheming.
I'm always walking shyly
Such a
into the
sleazeball.
room.
Rifling for
rifling
valuable
through-
items.
Yeah. Kat and I have this whole
Yeah, we have a
conspiracy
system.
going.
Yeah, every time I go over to your guys' house, I'm like, where's my money?
And Alec is just creeping around in the background.
He's
I'm always
always
holding my
creeping.
hands out.
Yeah, you're always like going to the bathroom at our house, and then my jewelry's missing.
Yeah. I'm paying off the cops.
Oh,
That was kind of a
weird.
long explanation. Sorry, guys. I should have
That
just.
could have been its own learning journey.
No, but
like it was.
I like that. I feel like it's cool that there's actually a historical thing behind it.
Yeah.
As with everything, it seems
Hey,
like on the
yeah.
show.
So true.
That's you. Smart Alec.
But all right, so for today's lesson, it was a beautiful Saturday morning in March 1962 in sunny Florida. And I looked up what song was at the top of the charts in March 1962.
Wow.
Because I feel like I often forget what date it is halfway through the lessons. So I'm hoping that this will maybe really calcify it as 1960s. And it was
Thorough.
The Duke of Earl by Gene Chandler.
He looks like he's wearing a magician's costume.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
he
have
does look
the album art pulled up, but very 1960s.
Yeah.
We should start doing that for every lesson that has a year in it. Like, this was the song at the top of the charts.
You can.
We do
think
it
it
for like
sounds
the
fun.
executioner. It's just like a violin. Yes, so that is at the top of the charts. And 16-year-old Edward Brian McCleary, who goes by Brian, was drinking his coffee when the phone rang. It was his buddy Eric Rule asking him if he'd like to join him and some friends to go skin diving at a shipwreck. Do you guys know what skin diving is?
No.
I didn't know what it was either. And it's apparently just scuba diving without a breathing apparatus.
Oh my God. So
just
just scuba
swimming?
diving, but worse.
You're,
Yeah.
yeah, you're in a bathing suit and you have fins on.
And you like,
Oh.
And it's like free diving. Like you go really deep.
oh my God.
And just hold your breath for a long time.
You just hold your breath for a long time, yeah. But apparently they don't call it free diving because that's considered more competitive.
That sounds like a nightmare. I'm so bad at holding my breath.
Yeah, this might actually be kind of scary for you knowing your fears.
Sends you into a panic attack.
That's why you chose it.
But so Eric calls and says like we've got some friends and we're going to go skin diving at a shipwreck. And Brian had been living in Florida for 2 years, and skin diving was his favorite pastime, and he'd never dove? Past tense of skin divin?
Skin divin.
He'd never skin divin a shipwreck.
Sounds like you had a stroke.
Skin divin, skin dovin, skin dived a shipwreck.
I skin dive, you skin dive, we skin dive almost.
We skin divin the shipwreck.
I don't skin div a damn.
Don't skin div a damn. Oh boy. He'd never skin dived a shipwreck before, so he checks the morning newspaper for the day's weather and tides, and it all looks good, so he agrees to go. gathers up his gear, goes outside, and there's not a cloud in the sky. It's a beautiful day. And Eric pulls up in a Ford with their friends Warren Saleh, who's 16, Brad Rice, who's 14, and Larry Bill, who's 17. And Eric and Brian are both 16. So they're all high schoolers. On the roof of the Ford is tied a 7-foot inflatable Air Force life raft that has oars and pockets and stuff like that. I have a picture of one of the 1960s life rafts here. It's just kind of your typical inflatable tube.
Yeah, it's what you'd picture.
Yeah, it's what you'd picture. This is not them pictured.
They've aged tremendously.
In the 60s, high schoolers looked 60.
That's true.
The picture we're looking at, they're like 50 or your 40-year-old men. All right, so that's tied to the top. Brian hops in, and Eric explains that they are driving 30 minutes north to Fort Pickens State Park because 2 miles off the shore of that park is the shipwreck of the USS Massachusetts.
Are they going to paddle 2 miles in that raft?
Yes, they're going to paddle 2 miles in that raft to the USS Massachusetts, which is shipwrecked on a sandbar.
Oh my God, so it's like out of the water mostly.
Yeah, most of it's out of the water. Is there any other way to describe this?
It's like a ship half out of the water.
Yeah, it looks like it's actively going down.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's just there.
Yeah, so a lot of metal stuff sticking up and out. That's where they're planning on going.
Wait, pause. I'm sorry. Haley, have you seen the movie Ghost Ship?
No.
Watch the first 10 minutes of it tonight.
Okay.
You don't have to watch the whole thing, just the first 10 minutes.
Ghost
That's what this
Ship.
is making me think of.
Yeah, Wine and Crime apparently had recommended doing this.
Well, they talk about it all the time, just the opening act of that movie, and they won't reveal it. So I'm not going to either for the shock value.
Okay.
I've never gasped so loud at a movie.
Let me set a reminder for myself right now. I'm listening.
Yeah,
Okay.
because we watched it as well.
And
it was worth the payoff.
you don't know what to expect, and then it was just the craziest scene I've ever
Where do I watch
witnessed.
it?
I think it's like free on like Tubi or something. Just look
Okay.
it up on the Roku.
Yeah, and I think it's on HBO. It's always
mean
sitting
Max?
there. Oh, Max.
Oh, Max. Yes.
Excuse me.
How dare you?
So they arrive at the park and they change into their swimsuits, load the raft with their supplies, and get in the water. They cleared the small waves easily and said it was calm and that the water was cold. On the way out to the shipwreck, they take turns paddling so no one gets too tired for diving. Brian does his shift paddling and then sits back to light a cigarette. And he notices a wind coming down from the north, and it's kind of chilly. But he looks down into the water, and he said he could see sunlight going down about 40 feet. And with that visibility, he's like, I'll brave the cold for this crystal clear water because I love diving.
That would be so cool if it wasn't terrifying.
Yeah, this whole thing sounds terrifying.
I'd love to see the video of someone doing it. Like if they had a GoPro.
Yeah.
I'd watch it.
And then imagine smoking while you're paddling a raft.
Oh yeah,
Like, that's
lungs of
crazy.
steel.
It seems like everything in the 60s is just like everybody's smoking cigarettes.
All the time.
Totally.
Even 14-year-olds.
Yeah, my grandpa started smoking when he was 12, I think.
Yeah, I think mine too.
And that wasn't the 60s. That was probably like the 50s. Yeah.
I've been collecting these 50s and 60s magazines, and like every other page is a cigarette ad, and it'll be like, the Dame of New York smokes these Chesterfields or whatever, and she's like, when I don't want an unsightly odor or something on my teeth, I smoke these Chesterfields or whatever. And then it'll be like, doctors say it doesn't cause anything in your throat, mouth, or tongue.
And why are the cigarette ads always the prettiest ones?
Yeah.
They're so cool.
Yeah.
I get why like everyone smoked.
Well, yeah. When I was a kid, I didn't understand that like nicotine gave you a head rush. I thought people only smoked to look cool. I didn't like fathom that there could be like anything that it did to you.
Yeah, because what really can you compare that to as a kid?
Right, and adults don't tell you like the fun part. They just tell you like it's stupid and like people do it to be cool, but like don't succumb to the peer pressure. And I was so confused about why anyone would start smoking.
And then I hit someone's jewel in college.
And everything changed.
Unfortunately.
So they're smoking their jewels, and this thought of that the water looking really clear is interrupted by Larry, who says, when we set off, the ship, the Massachusetts, was on our right, and he said, and now it's on our left. So he's like, we're not going directly at it. I think we're drifting. Like, we're not headed the right direction.
Yeah, like you do.
Yeah,
in the
so
ocean.
Eric says, well, let's paddle the other way. We got to make up for the tides and the drift. And Warren is like, well, my arms are killing me because I'm fighting this tide, so I need someone to relieve me. And they start noticing like little white caps forming on the water. And they're starting to clap against the side of the raft as the wind picks up. And Brian also notices that the sunny sky is now becoming overcast.
Go home, boys.
How freaking scary.
Yeah, because I was thinking when we go to like Florida, Kat and I, we'll be like scuba diving or snorkeling maybe 50 yards off the coast.
And even that's terrifying.
It's terrifying, yeah. And it's freezing cold.
Yeah.
I almost got hypothermia. I was
Oh
like
my God.
teeth chattering for an hour.
Yeah, that was cold.
I saw a video on TikTok yesterday where somebody on a cruise ship and they're like, watch how it goes from this beautiful and sunny skies. And I don't know how much longer later, but it must have been that evening. There was like water in the hallway of the cruise ship. The waves were fucking insane.
No, I can't.
That's when I would have accepted death.
Oh.
I would have put myself out. I would put myself down. I would have euthanized myself if there was water in my cruise ship room.
Bite my penis off. I want out.
I'd rather have my penis bitten off than drown in the ocean.
Yeah.
Like,
or
that
even
is
be
so
close to
scary. Yeah, or even like thinking I'm going to drown in the ocean.
I would have a heart attack.
Yeah, immediate death.
And if you don't understand the penis biting reference, listen to episode 1 of Show and Tell, which we just recorded.
Yeah. Also, I don't have a penis, just to be clear.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
I was about to say neither do I.
We're revealing a lot about ourselves
Had to catch
today.
myself.
That's like when you're at the movies and the ticket checkers like enjoy the show and you're like you too.
Fuck.
New rumor: Alec does not have a penis.
I don't have a penis either. I mean, oh. So they see seagulls flying towards the shore. The wind's getting stronger by the minute. And Warren says, like, it looks like we're not going to do any diving today. A storm's coming and we need to get back to shore.
Yeah.
So they spin the raft around and head back to shore, which at this point is just a thin green line on the horizon and it's getting smaller and smaller.
Oh, that's so scary.
Yeah, no bueno. To stop from getting dragged out to sea, Brian, Eric, and Warren hop into the icy water and get behind the boat to kick paddle it while the other two row. And so they've got as much manpower as they can to try to get back to shore. But the tide is too strong, so they give that up and they hop back in. They now have to hang on to the sides of the raft to keep it upright because the waves are getting so big.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Because it's like about to, turn over. They see a small boat coming in from the sea, also trying to avert for the storm. So they all stand up, if they trying to stand up in the thing, waving their arms, and they're yelling Mayday. But they said the wind was with all the wind, it was really hard to hear, and it was an old lady on the boat, and she just waved at them and kept driving to the shore.
That bitch.
So Brad was pretty quick thinking, and he grabs the shark gun they had on board, which is like a spear for protection when you're diving. And he ties his red shirt to the end of it and cuts the line that attaches the spear to the gun. So it's just a spear with a red shirt on the end. And he fires that at the old lady's boat. And it misses her boat by about 50 feet.
What if it punctured her boat and it just starts
it kills
going
her.
under?
Yeah, it just goes straight through her heart.
Yeah, like right through her solar plexus. She's like crucified on the front of her boat. So it misses her boat by about 50 feet, but they're like, that is a very clear distress signal. Anybody should have noticed that, but the boat continues in support.
I'd be like, sorry, boys. I got to get to safety.
Yeah, I don't got room on my boat.
So they start freaking out, but Brian spots a buoy about a mile away and points to it and says, all right, we can drift to that buoy and then tie our drag anchor to it. And so no reason we should get all shook up. So
Were they planning on getting on the buoy themselves or staying in the boat and just anchoring to it?
staying in the boat and anchoring to it.
Okay, I was going to say that's a really good way to get struck by lightning.
Yeah. And a drag anchor is like basically an underwater parachute. I didn't know what that was, but you apparently deploy it and it just creates so much drag that you basically stay in the same spot, but they're going to tie that to the buoy.
Okay.
And I think it's one of these big buoys with like a metal tower and a light on top
and
kind of
that'll
thing.
just keep them in one place through the storm so they don't get taken out to sea.
Yeah, and they can just hopefully stay there until they're rescued. So they begin paddling to the buoy, and the waves are now breaching the raft, so they're all sitting in a pool of icy water, and the inflatable sides are the only thing keeping it afloat. And at this point, they said they're all numb from the cold. They finally come up close to the buoy, and it's much larger than they expected, covered in red chipped paint.
Ugh.
Yeah, so Brian gets the anchor out to lasso the thing, and a big wave lifts the buoy up, and the raft is sucked into the undertow of the wave going up.
No.
And so they said it was like a roller coaster. As the buoy went up, they like kind of got sucked into a hole basically and went down. And so they were going up kind of under the buoy. So they all jump out and the buoy comes down on the boat.
Oh.
So Brian surfaces, and Warren is shouting, "Over here!" The raft came up over here. Brian and Eric make it to the raft, and they're able to flip it to dump the water, and the others pull themselves in. Eric and Brian cling to the sides. So the icy rain is slashing down on them through the storm, and they can see the top of the USS Massachusetts jutting out of the water as the waves are crashing white upon it.
Ooh, yikes.
And it's getting really dark, so they said that lightning was like illuminating the USS Massachusetts.
Why didn't they tie themselves to the USS Massachusetts?
They didn't get close enough.
Yeah, they're not close enough.
Okay.
But they can just see its silhouette, which is quite jarring if you look at that
it's creepy.
image again. It would be kind of scary seeing that in lightning. And you have a fear of ships in water, right?
Yeah, I don't like big things in water, especially if they have barnacles on them. I just imagine being sucked under and scraped up on the barnacles.
Ooh, yeah, not good. Yeah, ever since you taught that lesson on like torturing, and where they
about
would
being dragged under the boat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Brian says he's not sure how much time passes, but the rain turns to a mist, and the water settles to a glassy stillness. Then Brian says he's not. Excuse me, I just read that. Suddenly, a dense fog pours in and surrounds them, and it gets so quiet, there are no waves, no gulls, no fish jumping or anything, just dense, silent fog. Brian said this was the first time in his life he was truly scared.
Okay, Brian.
Yeah.
Good for you.
He's a boomer. Leave him alone.
Warren reportedly begins to whimper that they must have died and that the storm killed them and that they're like in the afterlife or something like that.
Yeah.
I would probably think the same thing.
Yeah.
With my,
Like, oh, thank God.
my into E obsession, I would probably think the same. Eric calms him down and they decide they can't do much of anything in the fog because they can't see more than 25 feet. So they're floating and they found a dry pack of cigarettes in one of the waterproof pockets. They all just start smoking again.
Yeah, that's the only thing you can do.
That's all you
The
can do.
logical response. Yeah.
So they're floating and they notice that the water below them, because they can feel the water that's in the thin floor of the boat, getting warmer and warmer.
Who peed?
And they're like, it's warm. This water's warm for March, and it's also warm for the hottest time in the year. Like, this is really warm water.
Like hurricane coming in?
And Larry says, shh, because he thinks he hears a boat. And they all get quiet and listen. And then they said the air gets filled with the odor of dead fish.
What?
Then about 40 feet away, they heard a tremendous splash.
Is it a whale?
And a few seconds later, the waves hit them and break over the side of their raft. And they're like, what the hell is that? Again, they hear a splash. And through the fog, they see what Brian could only describe as a telephone pole sticking out of the water. It was 10 feet out of the water and has a red bulb on top of it. It then bends at the middle and dives underwater. And they get another wave of the sickening fish odor. So we've taken a weird turn here.
Yeah. Is this underwater aliens
We'll see.
or a whale?
Brian said, I've never seen anything like this in my life. Through the fog, a high-pitched whine then breaks the silence. Something about this sound makes them full-on panic. And they all had their fins on at this point, and they all jump out of the raft in this panic.
They go into the water?
They go into the water, which makes no sense.
No. Yeah, I'd stay in the craft and cry.
Yeah.
But he said the fear when this sound happened was indescribable.
Yeah, you just like, it's like the flight response.
It might have been a flight response, which you hear about this kind of often with cryptid encounters and stuff, of noise scaring the shit out of people.
Yeah, and like the noise just being inherently terrifying, like something's off about it.
Yeah, it's so eerie.
Yeah, and years ago I did a Halloween episode on scary sounds, and we talked about infrasound and stuff, so maybe it's something to deal with that. But they all jump in the raft, and they're like, we're going to swim to the USS Massachusetts, even though we can't see it in the fog. It's panic, it's fear, it's flight. Patches of brown, crusty slime cover the surface.
What?
Eric and Brian are swimming up front, and the other three are behind them. Brian said our fear was indescribable.
Crusty slime?
Yeah, crusty and slimy, floating.
Like when you've
Ew.
left out Play-Doh for a little too long and it's still like kind of squishy but dried.
Yeah, I'm picturing like oil with nachos on it.
What?
Like that kind of texture.
I was
Okay.
picturing like I don't even know what it's called. I guess like the brown algae
Yeah.
growth. That can-
Seaweed,
Yeah.
slimy seaweed, who knows? But it's brown and crusty slime that covers the surface.
Ugh.
He said behind them, they can hear splashing and hissing. The fog also begins to dissipate, and now it's starting to rain again. And again, it's dark now, with the water getting a bit rougher, and they can feel it getting less and less warm. They're frantically swimming when they hear Warren scream, "Help me, it's got Brad, it's got Brad," cut off with a short cry.
Oh.
So then Larry comes swimming up to them, and the three, Larry, Eric, and Brian, are swimming for their lives at this point. So Eric and Brian are swimming with Larry, and Brian said it was really eerie swimming in the storm, not knowing how many feet of ocean were beneath you, and then they realize Larry has vanished. So they dive
Just in silence.
In silence, yeah. And so they are like frantically kind of looking around for him, also trying to get away, but they quickly kind of give up and they're still going. They can now clearly see the silhouette of the USS Massachusetts again, so they're swimming as fast as they can. Eric starts cramping up.
No.
So Brian is trying desperately to pull him along, so Eric is holding on to Brian's
It's
neck.
like, quick, smoke a cigarette. That'll help.
Here, they're still dry. Let's smoke this brown stuff that's floating. Eric starts cramping up, so he's getting pulled along. And then Brian says, quote, "Right next to Eric, that telephone pole-like figure broke the water. I could see the long neck and two small eyes. The mouth opened up, it bent over, it dove on top of Eric, dragging him under. I screamed and began to swim."
So is he the only one left now swimming?
Brian's the only one left now
Jeez.
swimming.
And what did he say it looked like? Does it still look like a telephone pole with a knob on top?
He said a telephone pole-like figure broke the water.
So
And
just a
so
long,
its
thin
neck was
thing,
10 feet long.
and it has a head on top.
And he drew a picture of it, which to me doesn't look very telephone pole-ish. Let me pull it up.
Is it like...
Here's the picture he drew.
Okay, so it's kind of like Nessie. Like,
Yeah, it kind of looks like a plesiosaur.
Yeah.
But I think the long neck was it just breaching out of the water, and maybe they couldn't see its head at the beginning. And I don't
See it
know
from the back.
I don't know if the buoy was the light. They said there was a light bulb on top of the head
Yeah.
at first.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was the buoy behind it or not.
Or maybe it had like glowing eyes.
It might have had glowing eyes. Yeah, because they originally said it was like a 10 feet out of the water and had a red bulb on top of it.
Weird.
Yeah, they could have just been panicking, you
Yeah.
know, and not remembered it all.
Yeah.
correctly if it was the light behind it from the buoy.
So its jaws come down on Eric, and that's the last thing Brian remembers. Brian was found unconscious in the sand at Fort McRae at 7:45 a.m. on Sunday. He has no idea how he got back, and the raft was found 10 miles away from where Brian came out of the water.
Is it possible he could have washed up, or would something have had to bring him there?
He thinks that he just deliriously swam, and yeah, that's I think all he can remember. McCleary claimed that he immediately shared his monster tale with personnel at the Pensacola Naval Hospital, which is where he came to, where he was treated for shock and exposure to the elements. E. McGovern, a verified member of the Escambia County Search and Rescue Unit, allegedly listened in awe and said, "The sea has lots of secrets. I believe you, but there's not much else I can do." A body washed up ashore a week later, which McCleary identified as Brad Rice, to the best of my knowledge.
No.
The other 3 bodies have never been found. And McCleary sent an abbreviated amended version of this to the biggest Loch Ness researcher at the time, who apparently accepted the tale at face value and said the potential dangers faced by those who swim in waters inhabited by these animals which must be remarked on the potential danger faced by those who swim in waters inhabited by these animals, which must be fish-eating carnivores.
Yeah.
And allegedly, Brian had a mental breakdown and couldn't leave the hospital for 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, how traumatizing. Even if you didn't see a monster, all your friends died in front of you.
Yeah, and he, here's an article from the Pensacola Times, or Pensacola, whatever their newspaper's called, that says 4 teenage skin divers still missing after raft is abandoned.
That's so interesting. The other, I think, Brad's body washed up.
Was it bitten?
The article that I basically just summarized in as much detail as I could was from Fate magazine. Brian told this to Fate magazine 2 years after the incident had happened, when he said he felt like he was able to talk about it. And Fate magazine was known for publishing crazy stuff. So a lot of people say oh, well, if it was in Fate magazine, it's probably not true. But Brian claims it's totally true, and he remained saying it was true until he died in 2016.
Yeah, just because it's published in a certain place doesn't mean he's lying. It could just be the only one willing to publish it.
Yeah. So that is the story of the, I don't know what to call it, the Pensacola Plesiosaur, some call it. The Pensacola monster.
Wow.
Some people call it that.
I was on my edge of the seat this
that was a
entire
crazy
time.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
How
I found
traumatic.
I found that story to be fascinating.
And they never found any bodies that could have been the other missing teenagers.
No, not a trace.
Wow.
I mean, the ocean is so big. Who's to say a prehistoric thing like that doesn't still exist?
And it's scary how the water changed temperature and you could smell it, and the sound,
why do you
it's
think
like
it
an
got
olfactory
warmer?
response. I don't know.
So weird.
It's just hot. It was heating everything around it.
Yeah.
Built-in hot tub.
And there's a couple ways you can look at this. One is the cynical way, which is he might have gotten hypothermia and just started hallucinating, and there was so much trauma of his friends drowning or possibly a shark attack or something that his brain went into some kind of state of shock and created this whole narrative. And then there's the other side. Some people think it's a right whale, which they kind of cruise along the surface with their mouth open, and it could have looked like a plesiosaur. We can pull up a video of it, but I don't think it looks anything like this. It looks like the mouth of a whale moving along the surface.
Weird.
But then if you listen to a lot of alien stuff and you listen to a lot of cryptid stuff, this kind of fits right in with that stuff. So I I kind of believe him.
I believe him.
I do. Yeah.
And
Why
it's
not?
terrifying.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
Oh, nothing.
So I was going to show, thinking of how they said that thick fog set in. Another plesiosaur is Champy.
Yeah, my family's seen Champy.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Because my Oma had a house on Lake Champlain. And so I have several family members. I think Karen's seen Champy.
God.
We need to get her
Yeah.
on the phone.
Yeah.
Call her right now.
Maybe I will.
But here is an old woman describing when she saw Champy. Can you see that okay,
Yeah.
Haley?
Yeah.
There's no shortage of eyewitnesses around town either.
It was so beautiful. It was magnificent.
Christine Hebert is one of them.
It was all misty that night. It was about 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And I looked out the window because the dogs were barking that way. And then all of a sudden, I saw something coming out of the woods. I couldn't make out what it was. Oh my gosh, the head just like a dinosaur with the body and into the water and a hump. They can't take away from me what I saw. And I don't care. I know what I saw and that's it.
That was really annoying music behind that.
Distracting for
Yeah.
our ADHDers.
Yeah, so she mentioned just a lot of fog, which I thought was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's if somehow it makes the water hot around it, maybe it's steam rising from the
true.
water.
Yeah, and if you buy into the fact, or the fact, the theory that somehow maybe cryptids are going through some kind of portals that open up, some people think that the mist is like an after effect of these portals opening
yeah.
up, and that like a lot of times storms or all of these temperature changes could be a side effect of a quote unquote portal where these things are coming through.
Yeah.
We're getting
Totally.
into crazy land now. And do you guys have time for a little clip
Yeah.
from Unsolved Mysteries? This, I believe, is also Lake Champlain. And this is a picture here. We'll include that on the Patreon attachments. Allegedly of Champy. And this woman they're setting up, she did not believe in it at all. And she's, as we're leading up to this clip, just talking about like, I did not believe this in the slightest. And so she and her family are driving along Lake Champlain, and then we'll start here.
That summer, Sandra, her 2 children, and her fiancé Tony were on vacation near Lake Champlain.
Okay, just be careful.
We stopped at this one place and we went down over a bank, and the children were down further on the beach having a great time, and Tony decided to go back to the car and get the camera because we hadn't taken any pictures of the children, and they had their shoes off and they're waiting down on the shore.
I want to find a really good spot.
And I'm sitting there by myself, and I'm looking out at the lake, and the lake started churning. My first thought was scuba divers, but then it's too much. It would be too big of a group of scuba divers, but then fish. There's some very large sturgeon and big walleyes in Champlain, so I thought, well, it's a very, very large school of fish. And then the head and the neck came up out of the water, and then the back. And I watched it turn its head and neck and look around, and when it first came up, its mouth was open, and I could see water coming out of the mouth, but I don't remember any eyes or any details like that, just the head and the neck and the back. And it's really, really serene, and I'm feeling like I shouldn't be there. This is something I should not be witnessing, because to me, this thing should have been extinct 30 million years ago. And even then, I'm not frightened. I'm in total awe and very calm. And then Tony came back and he saw it.
Heidi, get out of the water. Get out of the water right now. Come on, get out
And
of there.
he got all panicky, screaming and hollering.
Get up here. I don't know. Come on, get up there. Sandra, can you
And
see
he
that thing?
screamed at me to get back there. So he helped me up the bank, and when he did, he handed me the camera, and I turned around, and it's still there. And I picked up the camera and took one shot.
When When Sandra had the film developed, she was certain she had taken a picture of Champ. She was equally certain that no one would believe that the photo was real. She threw away the negatives and, fearing public ridicule, kept the picture hidden for the next 2 years.
Wow.
So anyways,
I believe
too. And I forget, I wish I could remember what family member it was. I really think it's Karen who saw it, and she said the same thing, that the water was like churning and it was like creating like little waves and then it surfaces.
we've got to call her about that.
Yeah, I'll ask my mom, make sure it's her. But yeah, and that's funny you bring up Champy, because we would visit my Oma's house like almost every summer, and I would just stare at Lake Champlain for hours
Just
hoping to see
waiting.
Champy. Yeah.
that'd be so incredible, especially as a kid.
Yeah.
To see it.
I never
my
saw it.
Yet. You haven't seen him yet.
Well, we don't have that house anymore, so I don't know that I'll ever go back
go
there.
to Lake Champlain.
I mean, you could, but I don't know if I would.
Where is it?
Vermont.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I think if Bigfoot are out there and some are nice and some are dangerous, and maybe these
Yeah.
plesiosaurs are in the water and some are nice and some are dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, or it's just an animal. Like, animals aren't good or bad, you know?
Just are.
They just do what they do.
Yeah, just the fact that we have no physical evidence of
Right.
those things
Totally.
kind of makes me question if they're just animals.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Well, that was an amazing learning journey.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Smart Alec.
Smart Alec.
Pimp and thief. My biography, Smart Alec, pimp and thief.
Do you want to close out your show?
Yeah, thank you all for listening. I don't know how to close it out. Like and subscribe. No, how do we close this out?
I don't know. It's your show.
How did we close out trivia night?
Just said goodbye.
All right, everybody.
Goodbye.
Oh, hey, let us know in the comments where you stand on plesiosaur cryptids. Do you think we're crazy for believing in them? Do you have an alternative explanation?
Have you had a sighting?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Have you
tell
had a
us
sighting?
your sightings.
Yeah, that's a great closer. So until next time,
We'll see you next month.
we'll see you next time. We're working out the script here.
We're professionals. Bye.
Bye.